It is a horrible idea that there is somebody who owns us, who makes us, who supervises us, waking and sleeping, who knows our thoughts, who can convict us of thought crime, who can do thought crime, just for what we think. You're a child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join your church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful. It's inhuman.
Hey, like the new hat? Yes, a friend on YouTube sent it to me just out of the blue, just because I had this on my wish list on Amazon.com. I had just put it on, and out of the blue, the hat arrives. And this is somebody who's just been super nice to me for many years now, and totally made my day. So this will be my replacing this sad little guy who my cat decided would be a wonderful thing to sleep on. I am now wearing this. I might eventually have that reshaped, but I don't know. This one will not be anywhere near the Toby or any place where Toby can decide to sleep on it. So it's a drover hat, by the way. If you don't know what that is, that's a outback hat from Australia, made of genuine buffalo hide. Very cool. And yes, I don't have a problem with, or no, I should say, I don't have a problem with using the hide of an animal that's killed for meat. I think that that's very Native American. The Native Americans used all of the animal that they killed for meat, and they did eat meat, by the way, yet they lived in harmony with nature. So anyway, I know I digress terribly, but I just wanted to add that. And so yes, I have a buffalo hide hat, and I love it, and I don't feel bad. I think buffalo are beautiful animals and a symbol of America before white people came here and trashed it. And I hope that we don't kill them to extinction like we have done many other animals, humans in general. But I digress yet again. This is actually not about my hat, this video. It's not about my hat, it's not about buffalo, and it's not about Native Americans. I'm actually outraged right now, but I'm trying not to turn this into a huge rant. I'm trying to talk rationally and not let my feelings sweep me into the raving lunatic mode that I can get into when I'm really angry. So here I am reading this article. Saudi Arabia sentences a man to 10 years in jail and 2,000 lashes. Did he commit a horrible crime? Did he murder somebody? Did he commit treason? No, he is an atheist, and that is why he's being punished, because he's an atheist. That is the article. Here is the picture that goes with the article. And now I shall read the wonderful little article about how this man is being imprisoned for 10 years and tortured horribly for simply being true to what he believes. Side note, do you think there would be more of an uproar in the United States and in the other Western countries if this was a Christian being flogged like we're back in the Dark Ages? Do you think there'd be more outrage if this was a Christian being tortured and imprisoned just because he believes something differently? It's just an atheist. They deserve it. You know, he's going to end up in hell anyway, so this is just like a preview of coming attractions. All the Christians who think that they, you know, enjoy the idea of seeing somebody suffer forever, this is probably a good thing. Well, he's an atheist. This is what you do to atheists. This is God's will, right? Okay, I digressed again, and I'm sorry. I can feel the rant mode coming on. See, it's just lurking below the surface, trying to get out. Okay, I am going to read the article now. So for people who don't like me to read out loud to them, I will post the link in the description of my video so you can shut up the video off right now and not feel offended and go and read it yourself. Wow. Okay, America's biggest Islamic ally. I'm sorry, that just, those two words together just kind of make me laugh. Islamic ally. In the Middle East, Saudi Arabia has sentenced a man to 10 years in prison and 2,000 lashes for expressing his atheism on Twitter. Yes, it's okay for you to believe something else apparently in Saudi Arabia, as long as it's not expressed. You cannot express it. You need to keep it secret. Keep it to yourself, your beliefs. The only beliefs that people can actually express out loud is Islam. It's the only one that's permitted. Everything else is illegal. I'm sorry. I, again, feel the rage coming on. Okay, back to the article. The 28-year-old reportedly refused to repent. Imagine repenting for feeling sorry. Repent means to feel sorry. Imagine being asked to feel sorry for what you believe in. I'm so sorry I'm a Christian. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. That I would have the same rights as everyone else to express my beliefs. I have to keep coming back to Christianity because people need to understand that for atheists it's exactly the same thing, but I guess it's not such a horrible thing if it's an atheist being tortured. So try to imagine this as a Christian being asked to repent for his beliefs. Yes, the 28-year-old reportedly refused to repent what he believes in, insisting what he wrote reflected his beliefs. You know, those things that people find so important and part of their identity, your beliefs. A lot of people would die for your beliefs, for their beliefs, wouldn't they? Yeah, apparently this is one person who would die for his beliefs because what you believe is important to you. Why would it be any different for an atheist? And here's a young man who apparently will die for his beliefs because nobody can survive even 1,000 lashes, much less 2,000 lashes. So you really have an innocent man being captured by his government and tortured to death. And this is a government that's an ally to the United States and part of the UN. And last time I heard, they were the ones running the show for global human rights or whatever it is. They're like in charge of it. And in their country, they're torturing someone to death, an innocent man to death, simply because he believes something different and he dares to express his personal beliefs. Like everybody else on the planet has the same desire to express their personal beliefs, so does he, but he gets to be tortured to death for it. I've given up on trying to control the rant mode. It's kind of taking over. Okay. Back to the article. We're going to read this yet again. The 28-year-old reportedly refused to repent, insisting what he wrote reflected his beliefs and that he had the right to express them. You know, like everybody else on the planet should have that right. The hardline Islamic State's religious police, in charge of monitoring social networks, found more than 600 tweets denying the existence of God, ridiculing Quranic verses, accusing all prophets of lies and saying their teaching fueled hostilities. Yeah, you think? Yeah, I've been saying this forever, well, at least since I became an atheist. Here's somebody who unfortunately lives in Saudi Arabia, who has the balls to say it even in Saudi Arabia, that Islam is promoting violent things in the world. 600 tweets. Wow. You know, that is just so horrible. The man should be slaughtered for sure and tortured horribly first and then slaughtered for tweeting 600 times or for opposing. Heaven forbid. Islam, oh precious, precious Islam. It just can't stand even a moment's criticism. How dare he criticize Islam? I'm sorry, I really am pissed off, and I'm trying really hard to make my rant at least slightly entertaining or amusing, perhaps. But it's just really a horrible situation, and it's really awful that we're sitting around living our day-to-day life completely ignoring the fact. Not just this man, but atheists in general in the Middle East are suffering. You know, you hear a lot about, oh, the Christians in the Middle East and how they're being persecuted. How often do people hear about the atheists in the Middle East and how they're being persecuted? Why does that not make the news? Why is that so much less horrible? The court also fined him about 4,000, it's got a funny little L symbol thingy in the front. I don't know if that means pounds. Probably. I'm stupid. Okay, yes, I am when it comes to these kind of... I don't know what the currency is in Saudi Arabia. It's probably not pounds either. It's probably some Saudi Arabia kind of money, and I don't care, and I'm too lazy to look it up. Okay. He was sentenced under a controversial law that defines atheism as terrorism. I see. So if they fail to convince you that their belief is true, if they fail completely to convince you that Islam is true, sorry, you're a terrorist. You know, you had your chance to believe. They tried their best to convince you that it was true. You still don't believe it. You're a terrorist and you deserve to be locked in prison. You must just not have tried hard enough to believe. You must not have listened hard enough to what they were saying. And you obviously don't repent about the fact that you failed to be convinced by their arguments. So now you deserve to be locked up and imprisoned, or if you dare to express your feelings or your opinion about what they tried to teach you, you deserve to be tortured to death. Yes, atheism, the state of not believing in a God because there's nothing to show a God exists, is terrorism. The state of not being convinced that something is true, that's terrorism in Saudi Arabia. And then to still think you have the right to express your opinion, that's terrorism. If you don't believe like everybody else, if you don't bleat the same tune as the rest of the herd, you are a terrorist. And you deserve to be tortured forever. Well, you will be after you die, but you deserve to be tortured to death. That came out wrong, silly me. But what do you do? Torture. You deserve torture. You deserve to be tortured on this planet, on this earth, and then of course you'll be tortured forever in the Islamic hell. Because you didn't believe. Because you couldn't be convinced something was true. What's wrong with you? Going back to the idea that God created everybody. Isn't it God's fault for making people wired in such a way that they require proof and evidence before they can believe in something? So why are you punishing this poor man for not being able to believe your arguments and for not being convinced by your arguments? Why are you punishing him? Shouldn't you be blaming your God for not giving you evidence that it would take to convince this man that your beliefs are true? He doesn't even bother to manifest himself or show he exists in any way, shape, or form. And there's no evidence anywhere to show God exists at all. And yet you're going to punish this poor man because he hasn't been convinced that your religion is true. You're going to punish him for then thinking that he can go on and express his opinion. You know, if you can't believe that our arguments are true, that's fine. But you aren't allowed to walk around and say what you think. We can walk around all day long and say what we think because we think the right things. But you don't think the right things, so you deserve to be punished forever in hell or to death here on earth. People can't actually control what they believe or don't believe. You don't choose to believe something. That's not a choice. Theists just love to say that it is. Well, you choose to deny God. You choose to not believe. You don't choose what you believe or disbelieve in. Either you are convinced to believe something is true, or you're not convinced, and then you don't believe it's true because you haven't been convinced. It takes convincing to believe something. And you cannot help it if somebody fails to convince you something is true. Punishing this person, whipping him 2,000 times and imprisoning him for 10 years, assuming he survives the whipping, which he won't, is the same as whipping somebody 2,000 times for being left-handed. Somebody who's left-handed can't help being left-handed, or whipping somebody 2,000 times for having blonde hair. Somebody can't help what hair color they have, but you're going to punish them to death for their hair color. That is just as absurd as whipping somebody to death for not being able to believe something. You cannot help what you believe or don't believe in. If you want somebody to believe something, you do have to convince them that something is true. And if you can't, yours is the failure. You have failed, not the person unable to believe. If anybody needs to be whipped, it's you, because you are creating terrorism by not convincing the unbeliever. You're the one that needs to be whipped. God, have I ever digressed from this article? The article itself is actually very short, so I need to kind of add filler, and this is me adding filler. Lots and lots and lots of filler. But the outrage that this brings to me is just, it's so wrong. Punishing this man who has done nothing wrong except, imagine having a belief in something, believing something that you feel strongly about, something that's a part of you that defines who you are. You believe in reason. You believe that something isn't actually true unless there's something to show it's true, you know, proof and evidence. That's how you're hardwired. You need proof and evidence to believe something is true. Imagine that you're this person and you need proof and evidence to believe something is true. And so you don't believe in a story that someone has told you. You just don't believe it. And you look around and you say, you know, this story is causing a lot of harm in my society. I don't like what I see. I don't like to see people having their hands chopped off because of they stole something. I don't like to see women having to wear clothing head to foot that covers everything except one eye because a book says something. I don't like to see women not being allowed to drive a car because a book says something. And you actually express that you don't like what you see happening in your society because of this belief system that you don't think is true because nobody could convince you this is true. And they come to your house and they catch you because you actually dared to text what you think, your worries and concerns about what you see is happening to your society because of a belief system that you have not been convinced is true and you think it's wrong. So you dared to express your concern and maybe even outrage. So they come because you did this and they arrest you and they say, you're going to be in jail for 10 years of your life. We're going to deprive you of 10 years of your life, assuming you survive getting whipped 2,000 times for simply not being able to believe something and being concerned about what this belief system is doing to your society. This is terrorism? Being concerned? Being perhaps outraged by oppression that you see happening to your fellow human beings around you because of something you don't think is true? How is this terrorism? And 2,000 times to whip anybody, 2,000, you don't do that to an animal. Don't you think after the first 100 lashes, a lot of people don't even survive 100 lashes, the poor guy has realized, don't you think that's enough punishment? Hasn't he had enough pain? No, we need to whip him and whip him and whip him, because I'm sorry, this is the mentality Islam creates in Islamic countries. They like to see people suffer. You need to really suffer because you don't believe what we do. You need to suffer because you dare to question what we believe. Bad, bad, bad. You really need to suffer and suffer and suffer because you just don't bleat in the same tune as the rest of us do. Okay, I'm going to go back to the article. I figured, what the hell. You know, I've ranted here for a while. Yes, in 2014, the late King Abdullah issued a string of royal decrees aimed at clamping down on all forms of political dissent and protests that could harm public order. It just makes me sick, this whole thing. And this country is part of the UN and one of America's allies. Article 1 of the new provision defined terrorism as calling for atheist thought in any form, or calling into question the fundamentals of the Islamic religion on which this country is based. You know, and Americans want Christianity to become the national religion here. They want this to be a Christian country. Yeah, a Christian nation. Let's look under the microscope at another country that has a religious base to its setup. Yeah, let's look at Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry. This is what happens when a country is founded on a religion, especially one as oppressive as any patriarchal religion, any Abrahamic religion like Christianity or Islam. This is what you end up with. A country where somebody can be tortured to death or imprisoned for 10 years if they survive being tortured for this much, simply for not believing in the same things and daring to say what they believe. Joe Stork, Deputy Middle East and North Africa Director of Human Rights Watch, said at the time the new measures were introduced, Saudi authorities have never tolerated criticism of their policies, but these recent laws and regulations turn almost any critical expression or independent association into crimes of terrorism. America needs to sever all ties with Saudi Arabia. To be an ally with this country is the same thing as condoning its actions. Its oppressive, inhumane, barbaric actions. This is a country where Shari'a law basically runs things. And I've had Muslims actually say, well, Shari'a law is a wonderful thing. No, it really isn't. Just look at Saudi Arabia and look at how people have to live. Look at this poor man being tortured, most likely to death, for simply not being able to believe something. This is not a good thing. I do not want to see Islam take over America for this reason. Because wherever Islam goes, Sharia law is sure to follow. And this kind of mentality. And people in America who walk around so blasé, oh, we need to accept, we need, you know, live and let live. That's fine and well until Islam becomes the majority in this country, which it will one day. And when that happens, Sharia law will be set up in this country. And we will lose our freedoms. There will be no freedom to believe in Christianity anymore. There'll be no freedom to be an atheist anymore. There'll be no freedom to be anything anymore except a Muslim.